Hello, and in this lecture presented by www.free-academy.com, we're going to keep practicing the chain rule doing problem 4 of chapter 3, section 5 of Anton Calculus 7th edition. Now, if you watched problem 3, you're going to notice that problem 4 is very similar in nature. We are giving two functions, f of x and g of x, and we're asked to find f of g of x and the derivative of f prime of g of x, as well as g of f of x and the derivative of g prime f of x. And I just noticed that I actually have a spelling error here. So let me really quickly make that correction here. There, g prime of f of x. Just ignore that little f of x part there. Alright, so disregarding that part, let's actually get in and start solving some of the problems here. We'll do the first part of problem A, which is finding f of g of x. So we just really need to make some substitutions here. We'll do the f, and we're going to substitute the value of g of x into x. So that is where we would write g of x here still. We're going to write what g of x equals, which is 4 plus the cosine of x. Now this is going to go on to equal 5 times the square root of 4 plus the cosine of x. And where did I get from point A to point B here? Well, f of x equals 5 times the square root of x, and instead of putting x in, we're querying 4 plus the cosine of x. So just like if I had taken f of 4, we would have put in 5 times the square root of 4 instead. We did the exact same thing, only we did it with another function and variables instead of just a number. And that's perfectly legitimate, and it's a very important part of doing mathematics. So we have f of g of x equals 5 times the square root of 4x. And let me rewrite this really quick as 5 times 4 plus the cosine of x to the half. No negative there. Oh, okay. Erased too much. Cosine to the 1/2. Alright, so we've got that. This is our f of g of x there, and we need to find the derivative of that mess here. So let's start out by finding the derivative of f of x. That would be equal to 5 times the derivative of the square roots of x, which is 1/2 x to the negative 1/2, just using our power rule there. So 5/2 times x to the negative 1/2 is the derivative of f of x. We'll also need our derivative of g of x. The derivative of g of x equals 0 for the constant times the derivative of cosine of x, which is equal to negative sine of x. So now taking a look back at our chain rule here, to find the answer we need f prime, we need g of x, and we need g prime. And in problem B, where we have g prime of x, we'll also need our f of x. But anyways, we have everything here that we need to go forward with the problem, so let's just plug everything in. The derivative of f of g of x equals f prime times g of x, 4 plus the cosine of x, times g prime of x, which is negative sine of x. And I'll put that in parentheses so you know it's a multiplication. So now we'll rewrite this as f, actually taking out the f prime, we'll rewrite our f prime here, which is 5/2 to the negative, parentheses to the negative 1/2. And because we're putting 4 plus the cosine of x into the value of f prime of x, we also write that in our little placeholder parentheses. And then of course we still multiply by negative sine of x. So now we've implemented all of our different values in for the chain rule. And we can clean this up a little bit, but this works pretty reasonably well as it is. Just the same, we'll have negative 5 sine of x divided by 2 times the square root of 4 plus the cosine of x. And that is our derivative of f of g of x. Now moving on to do problem B here, and just so I have some more room. I suppose we'll keep that. Alright, well, just to move on with problem B and not worrying about any of that stuff right now, we have our f prime of x and we have our g prime of x, we have our f of x, and we have our g of x. So we need to do the first part, which is write to g of f of x. So our g of x is equal to 4 plus the cosine of parentheses. And we're putting f of x into the value of g of x. So we'll take the f of x here and put it into our parentheses. 5 square root of x. And that is equal to g of f of x. That was a little bit quicker than what I did in problem A, but it's the exact same process. So hopefully that didn't cause any confusion. Now let's find the derivative with respect to x of g of f of x. We'll use our chain rule formula here, only we're going to replace the g's and the f's because we're doing this in a different order. Still the same formula, those values are just very relative. So we'll have g prime of f of x, which is 5 to the square roots of x, times the derivative of f of x, which is 5 halves x to the negative 1 half. Now this is equal to g prime, which is negative sine, and then we put 5 root x in for x, and then we multiply this by the derivative of f prime, just as it states in our formula here. And that is equal to negative 5 times sine of 5 root x divided by 2 square root of x, which is incredibly similar to what we have there. They're not exactly the same, but they are similar. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Please come back while we do more and more practice problems for your enjoyment as well as for your educational value.